had the same grandfather. So the Worthy family had two origins in North Carolina as well as South Carolina, and dating all the way back to, slave time, coming through Charleston. And I actually just did, this is kind of interesting, I'll say really quick, but I did a 23andMe with my family, and turns out we are 13% Congolese, and the Congolese came through Charleston. And what's really interesting, I started tracing my slave roots and tracing like where my family might be from, and I found a 5-page letter from one of my very first descendants. It was incredible, and nobody in my family had seen it or read it, and he's talking about places that are 45 minutes away from the South Carolina where these started. So it's just too close of a coincidence not to be the truth. So anyway, we've traced it back pretty far. And so James is from the Gastonia, North Carolina side, and my dad is from the Chester, South Carolina side. And we migrated down to Georgia, and he obviously stayed in North Carolina and went on to do big things in basketball. And so I've actually never met him, which is crazy. I've never met him, but he's a second cousin once removed or something crazy like that. So we like to claim him anyway.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Gene, if you could drop one more ad, and everybody of y'all stay on the line, but then I need to bring in Joe's Black Thoughts. And actually, one of the things that he has on his page is that he ranks a lot of the NBA champions. So I'm curious to see where the Lakers fall in his rankings, as well as our current folks that are going on as well. So that's one of the things that Joe talks about. But if we can get one more quick spot, and then we're going to bring Joe's Black Thoughts in as well. Joe Smoke.
You got it, man. It's Straight Talk with Dean and Mark.
This is Nikki Hall, founder of Simply Radiant LLC, a woman with great passion and skill to make you look and feel better. Meet me where you are. Let's take it to another level, a new you. See you soon. Call 919-971-6243. Make your place today.
All right, Mr. Hall, welcome to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. So you are now on the line.
How you doing?
We're doing good. How are you doing? Now, you got all kinds of things that you talk about. You got all kinds of things that you talk about on your blog, but we'll start off with the sports, and then we'll get to some of the political justice stuff that you talk about as well. But I did see on your page that you have this list of some of the greatest teams and everything. So I was wondering where they fall into place.
Well, the Lakers probably were number 3, and actually I pulled that from Fansided, and the question I asked on my blog was, who were the better teams? Was it the Golden State Warriors when they first brought Kevin Durant on, or Michael Jordan's 95-96 team that won 71 games? And my question was, which of those teams were better? Were the Bulls a better team with two Hall of Famers, Mike and Scotty, or were the Warriors with 4 or 5 potential Hall of Famers, Draymond, Steph, Clay, Kevin, and Andre? Which one of those teams would you choose in a 7-game series? And of course, I chose the Golden State Warriors. Both teams played outstanding defense. But the Golden State Warriors could beat you both inside and out. And that's the reason why I chose Golden State over Mike's team. Although Mike, one of my followers on my blog said Mike was better than four of those potential Hall of Famers by himself. And so he was from Chicago, so he was sort of biased. But my feeling was that when you look at basketball, and it's hard to it's hard to compare generations. We're talking about now 2 generations, almost a generation apart. Michael Jordan's team and the Golden State team. But you look at Kevin, you look at Andre, you look at Steph, you look at Clay. I mean, you look at Draymond, and you got 5 potential Hall of Fame players against Mike and Scotty, and the current coach of the Golden State Warriors, of course, Kara. But I just couldn't think that Chicago Bull team could compete with the Golden State team. As a matter of fact, I think that the only team that could possibly compete with the Golden State team of 2016-17 would probably be the Boston Celtic team that had the forwards of Bird and Parrish and McHale, and then they had a solid backcourt. I think it would have been hard for Golden State to beat that team. I think it would have been hard for Mike's team to beat that team when they were in their prime. But that was something I was just sort of like off the bat on, because normally on my blog I focus on history, black history. I focus on literacy, because those are 2 areas that I feel are lacking in our black community.
Now, one of the things that you talked about, I saw differently in one of your blogs, like captions and everything, and I was just wondering if you wanted to allude to this. You actually make some very profound comments about the black middle class, and I was wondering what you thought about it now. Like you said, we've got programs like what Benard is doing that are definitely trying to help the black middle class, but I was wondering if you think that it's, because the title was America Once Had a Promised Middle Class, a class that is now running in place. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that now.
I think that's still, when we really look at the black middle class, the black middle class is evaporated. Okay, the black middle class evaporated during the housing crisis in the last 2 years of the Bush administration, when black middle class housing collapsed. And the black middle class right now doesn't exist. Actually, when you look at it, I was reading an article recently that there are 2 classes in America. There's a 20% class of people that really don't care about, don't have any problems with money, are fine, dandy, everything's cool. They're individualists. They don't really care about really helping anybody. And then you got the other 80% of the country that's 90 days from bankruptcy. And, that's America. So I think we fool ourselves when we think that we are, we have a vibrant black middle class, because we don't. Even the blacks who think they're in middle class, and I was one of those blacks who thought I was in the middle class, but I was 90 days from being bankrupt, 90 days from a serious situation if it occurred in my life that would drop me back almost to the beginning of struggling. So I don't really think that in reality, I think a lot of people fool themselves in this country because they want to integrate into the process of this middle class ideal. But in reality, you go into those homes of those so-called middle class blacks, and you look at the absence of things that are that are prevalent in the upper class white homes. And it's really amazing, Mark. I mean, one of the things when you think about it, Mark, let me tell you one story. I don't know if you know this or not, but let's take two families, Mark. Let's take a family, huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
We take 2 families. The first family is a white, upper middle class family, right? And they have a 4-year-old child. No, they have a child, and the child is growing up. It was born, and now the child is 4 years old. And then you have a black family, right, that's struggling. Let's just say that they come from inner city Durham or inner city Baltimore or inner city Washington. Do you know that by the time that child, that white child and that black child start school in the kindergarten, there is a 30 million word gap between the two. 30 million words that white child has been exposed to that the black child hasn't. 30 million words. That basically, that white child comes into school almost already reading. You know, they don't really need any direction in reading because their parents have been reading to them, showing them words. The black child comes in with a word bank of about 25,000 words. The white child comes to the bank with 30 million words. And that's the difficulty that we face in this system that we're in. This educational system is continuing to, and I worked in the educational system for 40 years. I spent time in schools, elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. And what I found was that one of the major problems that separated children, and I went to white and black schools, was the ability of that child to read. And you know, a lot of people don't know this fact. When the federal government decides to build jails, they look at the reading level of black children. And that's how they determine how many jails they're going to need in the future.
I didn't know that, but I can understand that. Yeah, I can understand that, though, because one of the things I've been doing recently is playing Words with Friends, and I'm not going to lie, I've not been doing all that great because I have what I consider a decent vocabulary, but some of these folks that are playing me, they're like, I don't know why I'm continuing to play them, because there's this one woman that makes crossword puzzles out of New Zealand, and I think our average score is, I'm lucky if I can get 300, she's scoring like 600 or 700, and some of the words she's dropping on me, I'm sitting there going like, you know, if I was back in the days of Scrabble with my parents, I probably would challenge, but then I know I'd probably lose because when I come across it later, I see that it's a real word, so I can't really argue with you on that and everything.
I mean, one of the things Mark, one of the things that I do, I do two things. I have my blog, right, joesmarkthoughts.com, and I use that blog to express provoked thoughts. And when I first started the blog in 2016, my daughter was laughing at me, you know, because I'd have 4 and 5 people a month looking at it, you know, and she would be laughing. My daughter's like now 18, but she would laugh at me. She said, you know, why are you doing that? And I said, well, you know, I got a goal, I got a purpose to expand the process of understanding and trying to get people to understand the importance of their history and how to create a community of universal black readers. And last week I had over 8,000 views last week. So my blog is growing. But the program that I am most proud of, Mark, is 3 years ago I decided to start when Facebook Live started to do that live thing. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a black man read aloud hour. And I've been doing that for 3 years on Facebook Live every day. Every day I read for 1 hour from black nonfiction history books about our history aloud, because I'm an excellent reader, but I want one of the strongest aspects is listening to a good reader read. And we don't hear that. Black men don't read aloud. They don't. I mean, you have a few. You have a few, but if you look at it, most of the teachers are female in elementary school, in middle school, in high school. Most of that, when you get home and you come home from work, you don't pick a book up and read it to your child, right? So children don't hear men reading.
You're absolutely right about that. Yeah, you're absolutely